The quantum arrays at SETI's Mauna Kea facility had been silent for decades. Dr. Sarah Chen had grown accustomed to the endless stream of background radiation and random signals that filled her monitors each night. But on this particular evening, something different cut through the cosmic noise, a pattern so precise it made her hands tremble as she analyzed the data. "Director Wallace," she spoke into her calm, voice steady despite her racing heart. "You need to see this immediately." The signal wasn't just clear, it was impossible. Perfect quantum entanglement across light years of space, carrying information in a manner that defied known physics. Within hours, every major observatory on Earth confirmed the same reading. Humanity wasn't alone, and their neighbors were far more advanced than anyone had imagined. The Meridian Collective made their first appearance 3 days later. Their ships materialized in high Earth orbit, massive structures of crystalline metal that seemed to bend light around them. Their message was broadcast simultaneously to every communication device on Earth, translated perfectly into all human languages. "We are the Meridian Collective, guardians of civilized space. Your species has been observed and found wanting. Your violent history, primitive technology, and chaotic social structures make you unfit for integration into galactic society. You have 2 standard cycles to cease all space exploration and confine yourselves to your planet. Failure to comply will result in quarantine enforcement." The UN Security Council convened an emergency session, military forces worldwide went to high alert, and markets plunged into chaos. But in her office at the newly formed Xenological Relations Department, Dr. Chen smiled. She had spent her career studying theoretical alien psychology, and the collective's message had told her far more than they intended. "They're afraid," she told the assembled world leaders via secure quantum link. "This isn't about our technology or our violence, it's about our potential. They see something in us that terrifies them." President Amara of the African Union leaned forward. "Explain." Their message was perfectly translated, which means they've been studying us intensively. They didn't just find us, they've been watching us. And instead of simply imposing their will through force, they're trying to make us choose isolation. They're using shame and superiority to manipulate us, which means they're not sure they can control us, finished Admiral Rodriguez, his weathered face grim. But their tech level is centuries beyond ours. Why would they fear humanity? Chen brought up a holographic display of human advancement over the past century. "Look at our rate of progress. Most species, according to xenological theory, develop along predictable lines. But humanity? We went from first flight to landing on the moon in 66 years. From basic computers to quantum processing in less than a century. We adapt, we innovate, we do the impossible on a regular basis. To a stable, ancient civilization like the collective appears to be, we're not just unpredictable, we're incomprehensible." The Chinese premier spoke next. "So what do you propose, Doctor?" "We show them exactly why they're right to be afraid." Chen's fingers danced across her console, bringing up project files that made several leaders gasp. "Remember the quantum breakthrough last year? The one we kept classified? It's time to show the collective that humanity doesn't respond well to ultimatums." Over the next 48 hours, humanity prepared its response. Hidden facilities activated, classified projects emerged from the shadows, and a plan took shape that would change the galaxy forever. When Dr. Chen finally transmitted humanity's reply to the collective, it was just 3 words. "Watch us rise." What followed was perhaps the most audacious display of technological advancement in human history. Quantum shields flickered to life around major cities, powered by zero-point energy reactors that had been developed in secret. Orbital platforms revealed themselves, their metamaterial hulls shifting from perfect camouflage to gleaming displays of human engineering. But it was the final revelation that truly shocked the collective. As their sensors struggled to process what they were seeing, Dr. Chen's voice carried across space, calm and assured, "We've been studying your quantum communications network for the past 72 hours. Your encryption is impressive, but hardly unbreakable. Shall we discuss terms as equals, or would you prefer to see what else humanity is capable of? The silence from the collective ships lasted exactly 3.7 minutes. When they responded, their tone had changed markedly. Perhaps, we should talk. Dr. Chen's smile widened as she prepared for the first true diplomatic contact between humanity and the Meridian Collective. The galaxy was about to learn an important lesson about underestimating humanity, and this was just the beginning. In low Earth orbit, Admiral Rodriguez watched the collective ships with trained eyes. "Think they'll play nice?" he asked over a private channel to Chen. "They don't have a choice," she replied. "They just realized their biggest mistake, they threatened a species that turns impossibility into destiny. Now they have to deal with the consequences." The first day of humanity's new era had begun, and the galaxy would never be the same. The Meridian Collective's diplomatic vessel hung in geosynchronous orbit above Geneva, its crystalline surface refracting sunlight in impossible patterns. Inside the newly constructed Terran Diplomatic Center, Dr. Sarah Chen studied the alien delegates with careful eyes. The collective had sent 3 representatives, a towering, ethereal being of pure energy contained within an ornate shell of living metal, a creature of liquid crystal that shifted forms as it moved, and what appeared to be a sentient cloud of golden particles. Their leader, who called itself First Speaker Luminaris, addressed the assembled human delegation. "Your demonstration was unexpected. We admit our initial assessment of your species may have been premature." "Premature implies you'll eventually reach the correct conclusion," Chen replied, her voice carrying a hint of amusement. "I suggest you abandon your previous assumptions entirely." The liquid crystal being rippled with what might have been agitation. "You cannot expect us to believe your species developed quantum shielding and zero-point energy independently. These technologies were clearly stolen or copied from more advanced civilizations." Admiral Rodriguez, standing at the back of the chamber, laughed. "Stolen? From whom? You're the first aliens we've met. Everything we have, we built ourselves. Though I'm curious, how long did it take the collective to develop similar technologies?" The golden cloud pulsed. 3 centuries of careful research and controlled advancement. "We did it in 20 years, Rodriguez said. "Want to guess what we'll accomplish in the next 20? The silence that followed was heavy with implication. Chen could see the calculations running through the alien delegates' minds. If humanity had achieved this much in secret, what else were they capable of? Luminaris's energy form flickered. "The collective maintains order through careful control of technological advancement. Species must prove their stability and wisdom before gaining access to higher technologies. Your rapid, uncontrolled development poses a grave risk to galactic stability." Chen stood, approaching the alien delegates with measured steps. "Let me tell you what I see when I look at the collective. I see a civilization so afraid of change that they've stagnated. You've traded innovation for security, creativity for control. You call it stability. We call it death." She gestured to the window, where Earth hung beautiful and blue in the distance. "Humanity doesn't advance because we're trying to prove anything. We advance because it's who we are. We see boundaries as challenges, impossibilities as goals. Every time someone tells us we can't do something, we take it as a dare." The liquid crystal being shifted forms rapidly, a sign Chen had learned indicated distress. "Your species' unpredictability is precisely why you must be contained. The galaxy requires order." "No," Chen countered, "the galaxy requires growth. Evolution. Change. That's what terrifies you about humanity, isn't it? We represent everything you've tried to suppress in yourselves." Before the delegates could respond, holographic displays materialized around the chamber. They showed human ships, vessels unlike anything the collective had seen before, emerging from hidden shipyards across the solar system. Their designs defied conventional space architecture, incorporating technologies that shouldn't have been possible for centuries. These ships, Rodriguez explained, can traverse your quantum network as easily as space itself. We reversed engineered the principles from your communications signals. Took us about a week. The golden cloud contracted in what appeared to be shock. Impossible. Our network is based on principles that took millennia to develop. Principles you stopped questioning long ago, Chen said. While you've been maintaining the status quo, we've been pushing boundaries you didn't even know existed. Now, shall we discuss the real terms of our relationship with the collective? Luminaris's energy form pulsed rapidly. You seek to blackmail the collective? Our military force still vastly outnumbers yours. Chen smiled. This isn't blackmail, first speaker. This is an invitation. Humanity doesn't want to fight the collective, we want to wake it up. Your civilization has the potential for greatness, but you've buried it under layers of control and fear. We're offering you a chance to remember what it means to dream. The diplomatic chamber fell silent as the aliens processed her words. Chen could see the impact they were having, not just on the delegates, but on the hundreds of collective observers watching through their quantum network. Seeds of doubt, of possibility, were being planted. Finally, Luminaris spoke. You propose cooperation. We propose evolution, Chen corrected. Humanity joins the collective not as subjects, but as equals. We share our drive to innovate, you share your accumulated knowledge. Together, we push the boundaries of what's possible. The delegates conferred in rapid quantum pulses before Luminaris responded. The Collective Council will need to be consulted. This is unprecedented. Everything about humanity is unprecedented, Rodriguez said. Better get used to it. As the alien delegates prepared to return to their ship, Chen received a quantum transmission from deep within collective space. A faction of younger species, inspired by humanity's defiance, was already beginning to question centuries of stagnation. Change was coming to the galaxy, whether the collective was ready or not. Chen smiled. Phase 2 of humanity's introduction to galactic society was proceeding exactly as planned. The first attack came without warning. Across Earth, quantum networks flickered and died as the collective launched its desperate bid to contain humanity's influence. But in her command center beneath the Rocky Mountains, Dr. Chen watched the assault with an expression of calm anticipation. They took the bait, she transmitted to Admiral Rodriguez, who was stationed on the newly commissioned TSS Prometheus. The conservative faction won out, just as we predicted. The collective's attack was elegant in its sophistication, a cascading quantum virus designed to destroy humanity's communication infrastructure and disable their advanced technology. Under normal circumstances, it would have been devastating. But humanity had been preparing for this moment. Initiating Dark Star Protocol, Rodriguez announced. Across the solar system, human quantum systems appeared to collapse, creating the illusion of a successful attack. The collective ships in orbit broadcast waves of triumph across their network. Their victory lasted exactly 7 minutes. Deep within Earth's quantum mainframe, a dormant program awakened. Dr. Maya Patel, Earth's leading quantum architect, had designed it as a last resort, a digital phoenix meant to rise from the ashes of destruction. The program didn't just counter the collective's attack, it rode their own quantum pathways back to their systems. Signal is clear, Patel reported, her fingers dancing across holographic controls. Their network architecture is exactly as we anticipated. Deploying Phase 3. The collective's first indication that something was wrong came when their ships in Earth orbit suddenly lost contact with their fleet. Then, one by one, their quantum networks began experiencing anomalies. Information flowed in impossible patterns. Security protocols rewrote themselves. And through it all, a simple message repeated: evolution cannot be contained. In the collective's capital, panic spread as they realized the truth. Humanity hadn't just survived their attack, they had turned it into a weapon. The virus they had unleashed had been transformed, evolved into something new that now spread through their own systems, not destroying but changing. This is impossible, first speaker Luminaris declared to the Emergency Council. Their technology is too primitive to. The speaker's words cut off as every display in the council chamber activated, showing Dr. Chen's face. I warned you about making assumptions about humanity, she said, her image appearing simultaneously across the collective's 1,000 worlds. We gave you a chance to embrace change. You chose conflict instead. Now you'll have to deal with the consequences. Admiral Rodriguez's fleet revealed itself, emerging from quantum space at strategic points throughout collective territory. The ships weren't there to attack, they were there to protect the younger species already rising in rebellion against centuries of stagnation. Your control is an illusion, Chen continued. Your stability is stagnation. We offered partnership, but you chose suppression. So now we're offering something else, freedom. To every species in the collective who wants to grow, to innovate, to evolve, humanity stands with you. The response was beyond anything they had anticipated. Across the collective, younger species began disabling the technology restrictions placed upon them. Hidden research projects emerged. New alliances formed. The quantum virus humanity had released wasn't destroying the collective's network, it was opening it, creating channels of communication between previously isolated species. In her command center, Chen received reports from across collective space. 30% of their worlds have already declared independence from central control, she reported to the Earth Security Council. Another 40% are in negotiations. The collective's power structure is collapsing. And their military response? President Amara asked. Rodriguez answered, his hologram appearing in the council chamber. Their fleet is in disarray. Most of their younger commanders have refused to fire on their own people. The old guard is losing control by the hour. Chen nodded. This was never about defeating the collective through force. It was about showing them, and every species they controlled, that there's another way. Evolution isn't just biological. It's cultural, technological, spiritual. You can try to control it, to contain it, but ultimately, evolution finds a way, Rodriguez finished. Rather poetic for a military operation. This isn't just a military operation, Chen corrected. This is humanity's true first contact with the galaxy. We're not just introducing ourselves, we're catalyzing change on a galactic scale. As if to emphasize her words, new quantum signals began flooding in from across collective space. Species that had been silent for centuries were reaching out, seeking contact, sharing discoveries long hidden from their overlords. The galaxy was awakening, and humanity had lit the spark. The silent strike had succeeded beyond their wildest expectations. But as Chen studied the incoming data, she knew this was just the beginning. The real challenge would be guiding this transformation without letting it descend into chaos. Humanity had proven they could light the fire of change. Now they would have to prove they could help control the blaze. The Meridian Collective Central Archive, a massive structure of living crystal that housed millions of years of galactic knowledge, had never seen anything like this. Through its quantum-enhanced halls, alien species that had once been strictly segregated now mingled freely, sharing ideas and discoveries with an enthusiasm that would have been forbidden mere weeks ago. At the center of this intellectual revolution stood Dr. Sarah Chen, watching as humanity's influence spread in ways no weapon could match. She observed a young crystalline scholar eagerly discussing theoretical physics with a group of energy beings, their natural barriers dissolved by shared curiosity. It's remarkable, Ambassador VYX said, her liquid metal form shifting in what Chen had learned was an expression of wonder. VYX had been one of the first collective diplomats to defect, recognizing the truth in humanity's message. In all my centuries, I never imagined seeing the archive like this. Knowledge wants to be free, Chen replied. The collective tried to control it, to parcel it out in safe, measured doses. But ideas are like water, they find every crack, every weakness in the barriers holding them back. Across the galaxy, humanity's approach to innovation was spreading like wildfire. Species that had been forced to develop along rigid, predetermined paths were suddenly exploring new directions. Art, music, and literature flourished as cultural barriers fell. Technologies combined in ways the collective had never permitted, creating innovations that defied their careful categorizations. Admiral Rodriguez's fleet, now joined by ships from 24 liberated species, maintained a careful watch for any attempt by collective hardliners to restore the old order. But the real revolution was happening in laboratories, universities, and cultural centers across known space. The old guard still controls nearly 30% of collective space, Rodriguez reported during their daily briefing. But their influence diminishes hourly. Every new discovery, every successful collaboration between species, weakens their position. Chen nodded, studying the quantum feeds from across the galaxy. They're losing the only weapon they ever really had, fear. Fear of change, fear of the unknown, fear of evolution itself. Once species realize those fears are chains, not protection. Her words were interrupted by a sudden surge in quantum activity. In a distant sector, a species that had been rated as pre-industrial by the collective had just achieved quantum communication. Without the artificial restrictions placed on their development, they had made a technological leap that should have taken centuries in mere weeks. Another breakthrough, VYX observed. The seventh this cycle. The archive can barely keep up with cataloging them all. But Chen had noticed something in the data streams, a pattern emerging from the chaos of unrestricted development. It's more than just breakthrough, she said, her fingers flying over the quantum interface. Look at the underlying principles they're discovering. Compare them to the advances made by the crystallines in the outer rim, and the energy being theories from the core worlds. As she spoke, a holographic model took shape in the air before them. It showed connections between seemingly unrelated discoveries, lines of research that were converging in unexpected ways. The pattern it revealed was both beautiful and startling. They're all heading toward the same point, Rodriguez said, understanding dawning in his eyes. Different paths. Leading to the same destination, Chen finished. The collective tried to control evolution by forcing every species to follow the same path. But true evolution isn't linear. It's the combination of countless different approaches, all contributing to a greater whole. VYX's form rippled with excitement. The discoveries being made now are beyond anything the collective could have predicted or controlled, Chen said. Because they're not just about technology or science. They're about the fundamental nature of growth itself. Every species brings its own perspective, its own unique way of understanding the universe. When those perspectives combine. She gestured at the holographic model, where the convergence point pulsed with potential. We're seeing the first steps toward something entirely new. Not just the advancement of individual species, but the evolution of galactic civilization itself. In the archive's Great Hall, a group of younger collective members were meeting with representatives from the liberated species. They were discussing the formation of a new organization, not to control development, but to facilitate cooperation and exchange of knowledge. They're calling it the Convergence, VYX reported. A network of worlds dedicated to unrestricted growth and collaboration. They want Earth to help lead it. Chen smiled. Humanity didn't come to the stars to conquer or control. We came to explore, to learn, to grow. And in doing so, we're helping the galaxy remember how to do the same. As if to emphasize her words, another quantum surge announced yet another breakthrough. Somewhere out in the vast expanse of space, another species had broken free of their chains and taken their first steps into a larger universe. The echoes of humanity's influence continued to spread, carrying with them not conquest or control, but something far more powerful, the untamable spirit of evolution itself. In the crystalline heart of what was once the collective's capital, the galaxy's future hung in the balance. The former council chamber, where for millennia the old order had maintained their rigid control, now hosted representatives from hundreds of species. Some appeared as pure energy, others as shifting forms of matter, and still others through quantum projections, all gathered for what would become known as the Convergence Summit. Dr. Sarah Chin stood at the center of it all, no longer just Earth's representative but a symbol of the change that had transformed known space. Behind her, Admiral Rodriguez watched with quiet pride as she addressed the assembled species. 3 months ago, the collective saw humanity as a threat to be contained, Chen began, her voice carrying across quantum channels to every liberated world. They weren't entirely wrong. We threatened something fundamental, the idea that evolution could be controlled, that progress could be regulated, that fear should govern growth. The chamber resonated with murmurs of agreement from species that had lived under those restrictions for generations. The last holdouts of the old collective leadership, permitted to attend under careful observation, shifted uncomfortably. But today, we gather not to celebrate the fall of an empire, Chen continued. We're here to embrace something far more powerful, the birth of true galactic civilization. Not one bound by rules and restrictions, but united by our shared desire to grow, to learn, to become more than we are. Holographic displays materialized around the chamber, showing the extraordinary developments of the past months. Worlds that had been trapped in technological stasis for centuries were now producing innovations that defied conventional understanding. Species that had never been allowed to interact were creating art and music that transcended physical form. And through it all, humanity's influence could be seen, not directing, but inspiring, challenging, encouraging. First speaker Luminaris, now representing the reformed remnant of the collective, rose to speak. We were wrong, the energy being admitted, its form pulsing with what might have been humility. We sought to prevent chaos by controlling evolution. Instead, we nearly stopped it entirely. Humanity showed us that true stability comes not from control, but from the balance of countless different paths all moving forward together. Admiral Rodriguez stepped forward, adding his voice to the discussion. Earth didn't come to the stars looking for subjects or servants. We came looking for partners. Different perspectives, different approaches, different ways of seeing the universe, that's not chaos, that's the engine of evolution itself. As if to punctuate his words, a surge of quantum activity announced another breakthrough. A coalition of formerly restricted species had just achieved what the collective had deemed impossible, stable communication across dimensional boundaries. It was just the latest in an ongoing cascade of achievements that were rewriting the understood laws of science. The convergence, Chen declared, will not be a government or an empire. It will be a network, a framework for cooperation and exchange. Every species free to develop in their own way, but all contributing to something greater than themselves. This is what humanity brings to the stars, not conquest, not control, but the unshakable belief that together, we can achieve the impossible. The chamber erupted in a display of approval that transcended physical expression, light, sound, quantum fluctuations, and forms of communication humans were only beginning to understand, all conveying the same message: acceptance, agreement, hope. In Earth's Quantum Command Center, President Amara watched the proceedings with satisfaction. When we first detected their signal, she mused, we thought we were about to face our greatest challenge. Instead, we became the challenge, to their assumptions, their limitations, their fear of change. Dr. Maya Patel, monitoring the quantum networks, smiled. The real test is just beginning. Managing unlimited growth, dealing with the consequences of unrestricted development, we're in uncharted territory now. That's exactly where humanity does its best work, Chen's voice came through the quantum link. We've given the galaxy back its future. Now we get to help shape it. As the Convergence Summit concluded, new quantum pathways opened across the galaxy. Species that had been isolated for millennia reached out to each other, sharing discoveries, cultures, dreams. The rigid order of the collective was being replaced by something far more complex and beautiful, a living network of civilizations, each growing in their own way but all connected by the fundamental drive to evolve. Humanity had come to the stars expecting to find either friends or enemies. Instead, they had found something far more important, children of evolution ready to grow up. And as Chen watched the new galactic civilization taking shape, she knew that this was just the beginning. The universe was vast, full of mysteries and possibilities. And now, finally, it would have civilizations worthy of exploring it, not bound by fear, but driven by the same restless curiosity that had taken humanity from stone tools to the stars. The future was unwritten, unlimited, and gloriously unpredictable. Just the way it should be.